Oh man,
It's been a minute.
it's been a minute.
Yeah.
I almost didn't think that we would record another one of these shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me neither. For a little bit, it's like, okay, this is life now.
Yeah.
We did a thing for a little bit and it's over.
Yeah.
Nope, not over.
Let's see if I remember how to do this. I'm Lawrence.
And I'm Jeremy.
And this is Aftercare.
This is Aftercare. Yeah.
It's been a minute, so what do you want to talk about?
Oh man, I guess just a quick update. Where you been? Where I been?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I just took a couple weeks off, playing some sports. Just needed to relax a little bit. I was over volunteering, over burning out, doing a little bit too much. I need to go have some fun, and tonight was a holiday, so I didn't have to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sports tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and a friend of mine came to me today and was like, I'm listening to your podcast. I was like, oh, where are you? Mate, we might have stopped.
Yeah. I've gotten asked more about the podcast since we stopped recording episodes than while we were recording episodes. I don't know if that's like how that works, but
Cool.
I'm glad that we're back and just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And we'll see what God kind of brings out of it.
Definitely.
We've been talking for a while, so we'll see
I
when
know.
we actually get on.
We got a little warmed up before we push record.
Yeah, but no, life for me has been, it's more the same, like leading a quiet life, right?
Yeah.
Being a dad and spending time with the kids, being at home.
Who says that? Who says they're a dad and has kids and it's quiet?
Oh, no, dude, my house is not quiet, not at all.
Quiet.
Dude, as a matter of fact, it's never quiet at my house
There
now.
you go. That sounds more right.
Yeah. So, and there's a reason why, right? So, remember, dude, I don't know if I ever talked about it on here, but like, my wife came home with a dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a few months back. I don't know if I ever talked about it on the pod, but my wife came home with a dog. Fast forward to a week ago, my wife came home with 4 chicks.
You got chickens now too?
Yes. And then I'm working from home today. I take my lunch break, come back for my lunch, go back to work. She's like, "Hey, I'm gonna take our son, and we're gonna go to the store." She came back with 3 more.
Got 7 chickens now.
7 chickens.
7 chickens and a dog.
7 chickens and 2 dogs and a cat
And 4 kids?
and 4 kids.
Yeah.
And
That's the American dream, dude.
an axolotl.
Oh, what?
And a leopard spotted
Oh,
gecko.
Fun.
Yeah, we have.
That's a
There's
zoo.
so much. Yeah.
Nice.
We don't just need a different house. We need land.
You need a land. You need a couple
Yeah,
lots.
Yeah. So we can get cows and horses and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Next, 1 year later, filming the podcast on the farm. Let's go.
Oh, dude, that'll be awesome. I
sick.
can't wait. Yeah, that'll be sick. That was probably one of the better experiences of my life. I got to live on a 157-acre farm for 2 years in Texas.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You never knew that?
I feel like, yeah. Well, maybe you told me once.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So when I left Colorado after high school, I went to Texas.
Oh.
And I had this opportunity to live on a farm, and they rented me a 3-bedroom house for
way.
$200 a month.
Oh,
It was a 157-acre farm.
Earlier, when you were talking about coming from Texas, I was like, oh, why don't you just live in Texas for a while? I didn't even think what else was going on.
Yeah.
On a farm. Nice.
Donkeys and cows and dude, they actually recorded Children of the Corn on that farm.
Dang.
So that was the first thing they told me. I was like, I don't even know what Children of the Corn is.
Famous.
And now I know. It's
Yeah.
it's like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they recorded it on that farm.
Oh, that's
the
cool.
original
That's
Children of the Corn
crazy.
movie. Yeah.
Nice.
And the first thing they told me was don't run through the corn.
Don't want to do the corn.
Yeah, because chiggers. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Because it put chair? No, I didn't hear that.
They're called chiggers. They're little microscopic bugs that will
Oh.
get on your skin.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
I did not grow up on a farm.
Yeah.
That's
Story time.
Story time. Yeah.
But how do you feel like God has been kind of leading you in recovery lately?
I think that's kind of crazy that you bring up, family and raising on a farm and looking to the future of what is this podcast going to look like? What is our lives going to look like? And I think so often God will give us glimpses and give us hopes and dreams of what we're looking for or hoping for, and we'll strive towards those things. And then when they don't look like when your recovery doesn't really look like what you envisioned it when you first started, and then you start start questioning things. So like, why am I doing this? What is going on? Am I messing up? Am I doing something wrong? And for me in my recovery journey right now, like I'm in my 12 steps. I'm on step 10, and I got to a point where we talked about grace, and I was talking with my group, and so often we look at grace as like something we're supposed to give to somebody else. But for me, the biggest struggle was giving it to myself. Like, I felt like I held myself to such a high standard that I was like, I can't forgive myself. Like, I'm better than that. I'm bigger than that. And it turned into this whole, like, I almost had to like completely start the steps over again. Whereas like, why am I struggling so much on giving myself grace? It's almost like I still believe that I'm supposed to fight for like I'm supposed to grit down and get my recovery done myself, or give my salvation to myself. And I was like, I gotta go back to step 1 and realize I have to give up to a higher power, give up to Jesus, give it over to him again. And so the biggest thing I learned is like, I'm having to do that almost daily, to where like, okay, God, it's another day. I still have this fleshly body where I want to do it my way, but I'm gonna choose you again. And it's been, so the last 6 weeks, which has been nice to like take a break from some things, but also needing to like, don't stop completely. So that's what I've been learning, and it's been good, but it's also been humbling and embarrassing when I fall on my face and mess up, but that's been good.
Yeah. I think we kind of were having this discussion between me and you earlier when I was talking about like what made recovery like really work for me. And for me, it was like when I was like, my commitment wasn't to, I'm going to get clean or I'm going to be drug free or anything like that. But my commitment was, I actually think I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm committed to like walking this out with God.
Yeah.
And anytime that I slip, fall, stumble, whatever, as soon as I recognize it, to run immediately back to God and to stop like the hiding or the shame part of it, right? You almost like recognize the feeling that like Adam and Eve must have been going through like in the garden, where like their first instinct was, I've made a terrible mistake.
Oh, and you just gotta run away.
And I'm just gonna run away and try to hide from God. And that just doesn't work. And for me, it was just the opposite. Like, slip, fall, stumble, run to God.
Run straight to the person that can fix it.
Yeah. Like that's where my hope comes from. That's where salvation comes from. That's where grace and mercy reside, is when I run back to God and say, hey, like this is my flaw, this is where I fell.
That's huge, because it's so easy to just like slip right into shame. Oh crap, God, I looked at something I'm not supposed to. Don't look at me, don't look at this. Like even our pastor talked about that this weekend, where he said his kid put some aluminum foil in the microwave.
Yeah.
And he came inside, he's like, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. Fire! You know, like, and it's like, yeah, go to him first. And I try not to do this like gymnastics thing where I'm like, well, justify what I'm doing. Like, oh God, I can mess up today because you're just gonna forgive me afterwards. Like, I've done that before, where I'm like, but I don't want to live in that mentality either, or fall into that one. Like, well, he can just save me, so I can just mess up and not. You know?
I think what I've found in being committed to running back so quickly is that it's actually a deterrent from me falling.
Yeah.
the relationship is better.
Yeah.
Right? Like
There you
people,
go.
people
Yeah.
that you really like love and care about and you communicate with very openly, you're less likely to hurt that individual, right? Because there's open lines of communication about everything.
When you are talking, when you
When
are
you
making
are
that
talking,
connection,
when you are being open.
Yeah.
And so like in being open with God, I find that, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination am I saying like I'm perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not. But you tend to go the extra mile for people that you really care about. And by putting God in like his rightful place and having the right relationship with him, I think allows the Holy Spirit to like lead and guide and for me to like listen when things are
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah.
And you know, I know that you were asked a question about, you know, well, what do you do when you want to go back to the thing that you used to do? Like, how do you navigate
Yeah,
that?
when you have like an urge to fall back into your patterns, to your sins. Oh, this is where it's hard, and I'm going to be vulnerable on this podcast. It's hard because I know what the right answer is. I know what I can say. Like the right answer is to pray and to go to your Bible and to seek God first, because you're supposed to put, like, when you what is it, my other buddy who leads our step study, he talks about the verse where I don't have it memorized, but basically it's if a demon has left this person and that person doesn't have something to fill that spot with, then the demon will go off, find more demons, come back sevenfold. And so it's the same with like your struggles. Like if you've given up whatever your addiction is and then you just fill it with TV time or sports or whatever it is, if you're not filling it with God or something that's going to take that space, going to be able to replace that sin or addiction, that addiction's going to come back sevenfold and hit you even harder. So I've definitely felt that hit before, where that urge is like, I'm like, why is it so much stronger now that I've been, whatever is like I haven't smoked cigarettes in 6 years. I still want to. I was like, why do I know why I want to, but I don't want to. But it's still there. It's still like constant. So even, and I mean, I would say what's worked for me is really changing my identity. It's like, okay, I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I'm not an alcoholic. That's not who I am anymore. I am a new creation. But even that sometimes feels like, oh, it's just me just gritting my teeth and white knuckling it through and not truly letting it all go to Jesus either. Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is, because I've been wrestling with it for a while, and there are things that I struggle with more than I do smoking or alcohol, that like sexual integrity is one. Like my mind will just create scenarios out of nowhere, and I'll be in fantasy world for 2 or 3 minutes, and then afterwards be like, what was I doing? Why was I felt the temptation, and then I just disappeared and went somewhere else in my head for who knows how long. And so for those things, like, I know what the right answer is. It doesn't mean I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I know what'll help, but journaling's tough. I don't like it, but it is something that I know I need to do. Like journal, write things down. Actually, when I am feeling tempted, pray and ask for help instead of, oh, I can do it. I can get through it. And it's so easy for me to just get in that mindset of just do it, Jeremy. Just don't do it. Just do it. Just don't do it. Whatever it is. But you get exhausted doing that.
Yeah. There's a verse, and I know I'm going to butcher it, and so hopefully we can put it like in the bottom during this video. But it's a verse that I know has come up in church before. They were speaking on it for a while, but it's the verse that goes something about like, you know, we build hope, and the hope builds, you know, character, and yeah. So
perseverance.
And then perseverance, and the thing I think has helped the most in my recovery was like building up my character, right? And by becoming a man of good character, it leads to making wiser decisions.
Yep.
And that only came through like a hope and faith in God, a God who's perfect, who gives me strength to handle these situations. And for me, there's areas where, like with drinking, right, where I can be around people that are drinking and it's not a problem. Like God has given me enough strength in that area that I'm not tempted by it.
Yeah.
Right. So family functions where people are drinking, and it's not bugging me. I'm not worried about it. But there's other things where it's like I can't put myself in that position, right? You know, I can't be around. I can't be around drugs, but I'm not going to put myself in the position either.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that I actually have enough strength to be like, no, I'm good. Just where my life is at right now, who I am as a man. But I'm also just not going to put myself in a crazy situation that I don't have to be. There's certain things that you just can't get away from, like alcohol. And for people that really struggle with alcohol, I get it, you know, and you have to ask yourself, well, what is the situation that I'm in, right? And sometimes, in order to deal with things that you may struggle with, or like wanting to go back, you just have to change your environment. Like you can't be in an environment that you know is not going to be healthy for you. If you're struggling with lust, going to a nightclub is probably not the best idea. Going to see a rated R movie that
what you put in your mind will mess with you.
may not be a good idea. Watching whatever dating show is on MTV right now may not be a good idea. Staying off of social media for a season may be something that you need to do. And so I think that there's guardrails that we can put in place depending on the different areas that we may be recovering from. In the perspective of looking at a sin that is anything remotely involved with sexual immorality, I think Paul gives us a pretty clear outline, and he says, like, flee from sexual sin, like run from it. And so I think we should be cautious, you know, especially those things that are around sexual integrity, to be like, no, like get as far away from that as you possibly can. There's a reason why I think he gives us that warning in regards to that particular sin. And that may look crazy. Like if a girl is throwing herself at you, it might look really weird for you to just be like, I gotta go. But
being a Christian's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Following Christ is crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's so yeah. Just I'm stuck on it being like exhausting. Like it shouldn't be exhausting, and I know that I'm doing something wrong when I'm like, God, this is hard. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to do it all on your own. So it's like, that's why it's so hard. Yep.
Man, is there anything that you've been, I know you're almost done with the 12 steps. Is there anything that you've been dealing with over like the last few weeks that has been like really hard?
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that what I've been dealing with is like I use other people's experiences as a way to like help me decide what I'm doing, if I'm doing it right, if I'm doing it wrong, how can I change things? Is somebody doing something better than me, then I should do it that way. And
Always run your race.
Always run your race.
Always run your race.
Exactly. I'm so worried about everybody else and why they're doing stuff, and I'm losing focus on myself. And so I'm constantly having to come back to, and this is what's tricky because you do it with a group of guys, and so I'm listening to other people's questions, and then I get in my head like, that's not how I would do it. That's not how I would answer that question. And then I get to my answer, and I'm like, well, now am I answering this question just to sound better in a circle, or is this really where my heart's at? And so in group, I'll be, even my group leader's like, Jeremy, you're super animated tonight. I'm like, yeah, because I'm I'm wrestling in my mind and in my heart, and I don't know what to do with my arms. So I'm
Talladega Nights.
I don't know what to do with my hands. And so, and that's been a whole recovery aspect for myself. Is like, well, am I doing what I know is right for myself, or am I just copying and pasting somebody else's recovery journey? And am I doing the same thing with my walk with Christ, with every other aspect of my life? Am I just am I like when my marriage fell apart?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't copy and paste my dad's marriage because, well, now what am I supposed to do? Like, just live your own life.
Yeah.
Like,
dude. So you said a lot.
I did.
Man, I'm gonna take it this way.
Take whatever.
So, do you feel like that's a lot of what our faith is and what recovery is just like trying to copy and paste what somebody else did that worked for them?
I really hope not. I really hope not. I mean, and that's what's. I think that's where, like, I'm needing to give grace to so many different people. Is like, hey, you don't need to do the exact same thing that I did, because your relationship with Christ is different. Your recovery journey is different. And not to get into this legalistic thing where it's like, these are the steps, these are the rules, these are the way to get stuff done, and that's the only way that you can get to know Jesus is if you pray this exact same prayer, and because it's not. But then also realize that some things, like, yeah, in order to have a relationship with Jesus, you have to talk to him somehow.
Yeah.
And even that is a step, or an action, or a thing to do. Like, yes, my prayers are completely different from your prayers, and it should be that way, because my relationship is different with Christ than yours is. And that's just been a hard thing for me to, like, it's been something that I need to wrestle with, is everybody's journey's different.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
It's, so I talk about my kids a lot, right? And the funny thing that my kids will tell me all the time is every one of them is my favorite according to the other ones at some point in time. Because you treat him different, or you treat her different. And my response to them is, of course I do.
Yeah.
Why would I treat you all the same? You are all drastically different human beings. And what's interesting about, I think, us as humans is that we try to do the copy and pasting. Well, that is working for them, so I'm just going to try to do exactly what they did, exactly how they did it, and it should work for me. But then that almost never works that way.
Yeah.
Right? And we want the magic formula to recovery and, like, Christianity, right? Both, right? It's separate or together, right?
Yeah.
We want the formula. Can I do this plus this, and this is the outcome that it equals, and that looks really good. And I just don't, in my walk, I would say I don't think that the Father is a formulaic Father.
It doesn't work that way.
Like if you think that you're going to reach God with a formula, then I think that you've drastically missed the mark.
You've only read half the Bible, if that's the case.
Yeah, and because all that I see is a loving Father that wants to have a relationship with you, and in that relationship, the outcome that you're going to get is the outcome that God desires for you, and you can't even always see that for yourself. And we talked about when you mentioned earlier when God gives you like a glimpse of something, mm-hmm. or you've been given a promise or something like that, and you have an idea of what you think that it looks like, but it's like, what does God really want for you? But I think we go back to this cut, copy, paste thing, mm-hmm. and we live in a society that wants to microwave everything.
Yep.
So we're looking for the shortcut. How can I quickly do this, that, and the third to get what I want out of this?
Yeah.
And then we start to treat God like a...
You said it earlier, genie.
Yeah, like a genie, or like the machine with the claw where you can just like reach in, grab what you want, right? And sometimes that claw don't work how you want it to work, and it grabs the other thing, and that's what you get.
That's what you get.
And sometimes I think God moves that claw, and you think it's going for one thing, and He says, "No, this is what you get."
This is what you. But it's not even that. This is what you get. It's this is what you need.
Yeah.
And this is actually better for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing you had envisioned, that's nothing compared to what this next thing I'm bringing to your life is going to be. Yeah. And we get so caught up in no, I see the shiny thing. I see the white picket fence with the family. I see the Lamborghini. I see the 10,000 followers or whatever, and think we almost even put God into like a box.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't imagine anything bigger than that. And God's like, oh, come on. Like,
yeah. Man. Yeah, we take a God that says, I'll give you more than you can ask, think, or imagine, right?
Yep.
And all we can imagine is what we've seen on TV.
Is all these
You're not even using your imagination. You're just like, you're seeing what somebody else has.
We're copying and pasting someone else's blessings.
And isn't there like a commandment about Isn't that a little bit of coveting? Like it feels a little covetous.
They have it. I want that.
Yeah.
They look happy. I want that.
Yeah. And then you're looking at your own life, and there can be all this beauty that you're missing out on because you're trying to get in someone else's lane.
Yeah.
That you don't even see the beauty in your own lane. And the other thing is, like, you don't even know what someone else had to deal with to get to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
they have their whole journey and their whole struggles and all the stuff that they go home and deal with that they're not posting on social or you're not seeing at church on Sunday or whatever. Like, everybody's going through an entire universe of experiences, and who knows what they had to give up to get what you think is this huge blessing either.
Yeah, I mean, someone could probably look at my life and say, like, oh, like he's got a relationship, he's got kids, they're in the house together, like they're all traveling around and their sports and all that. But it's like, if you knew like the heartache that not only I went through, but that my wife went through, that my kids went through, and all that, you'd be like, I don't know, right? Like it looks good from the outside, but like, so like that's definitely the reason why you can't copy and paste everybody else's stuff, because people go through too much.
Yeah, you might not want to do all that.
No.
if you knew what it takes, you might not want to do all that. No, thank you. But also then when you went through that stuff,
Yeah.
that adds to your blessing too. That's part of your
Yeah.
experience. That's part of your journey that God's put you through too.
Yeah. I mean, even we talked about testimonies this evening, right? So it's, it's part of my testimony, and my testimony is my own,
Yeah.
right? Like it's the thing that God has given me to share God with other people.
Yep.
And why would you ever want someone else's testimony?
Yeah.
It's just not helpful.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
Nope.
It's like your testimony is exclusively yours, and God gave it to you
Yeah.
to win brothers and sisters to Christ,
Yep. Exactly.
and that can't be copied.
It shouldn't be copied.
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't need to be copied.
yeah,
You got your story, I got my story. God's gonna use them both in different ways. You just have to not get so caught up on that being like our identity either.
Yeah.
Like our purpose, or like my story's not good enough.
yeah.
Like, no, God's gonna use it exactly the way He needs to use it. He's gonna use you exactly the way He needs to use it. Just
Yeah.
let Him.
I'm like reading our slogan like on the hoodie, right? Living a restored life, and that's the purpose of this all, right? Is to walk through life in such a way that you roll with it.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect life. It's a restored life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a life that you had that was lost, that was taken, either because the things that you went through or the things that you've experienced that God has gifted now back to you.
Yep.
And now you get to walk through life with God in a way that you never even really expected to be able to walk through life. And
Yeah.
it's not that you get to lead a life that's free from pain or heartache or struggle. It's that you get to walk through life now with the strength to be able to handle it. And in the moments when you can't handle it, you're able to give it to God so that He can handle it
Yep.
and walk you through that season of life.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go. 100%.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. I mean, we could go on and on and on about
Yeah, we can talk for like 3 hours, but
3-hour podcast.
yeah. I'm not Tim Ross.
Welcome back to our new half a day podcast format. No, I don't think so. Well, that's good, dude.
Yeah.
I'm glad we still remember how to do this.
Barely. Just barely. Maybe just a little bit. But anyways, like, how are you going through life? How do you deal with the things that you're struggling with? If you're struggling to deal with the things, or like when things come back up and you want to go back to the way things used to be, like maybe we said something today that gives you strength or points you in the right direction, or maybe we didn't and you have a better way. And if you do, leave it in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah. We do not have this life figured out, and
Not at all.
Some
I'll
extra
take
help-
all
some
the
extra help would
tips
be
in the
awesome.
world.
Yeah. I'm down for some help.
Anyways, I'm Lawrence.
I'm Jeremy.
This is Aftercare.
Latest.